I might actually just tweet out not the link, but say what we're doing.
Uh, yeah, sure.
Should I? Should I? Or should I not?
You don't. I don't think you need to because it sends
Okay.
out the email to all the retro patrons.
All right. Cool.
So
I was thinking more in like a marketing sense, like, hey, we're doing this cool thing.
yeah,
If
but
you,
they have to like sign up, and I don't know if they're.
you're right. It wouldn't make sense right now. It's too late.
Yeah, I don't know if they get access to retroactive stuff right away or not. Like, I'm not actually sure.
Okay.
We're going on.
Hmm.
Okay, let me.
Retro phone. I had fun playing through F-Zero X today. That game's pretty good. Oh, we're actually live. Okay.
Yes, I was gonna say. uh, Let me open the chat here
Just chilling and playing retro games.
so I can read you beautiful people.
Yes, I was just testing the so for everybody watching, we're just getting started and waiting for everybody to kind of start to roll in. But I was talking to Audie. I guess I should mention we just got our hands on the new N64 digital mod,
Yeah.
and first impressions are exceptionally
Are
good.
yes. I
It's
Are we doing a video on this?
I was actually thinking maybe we could get all of the guys involved from Pixel FX on a stream or something. You know, Dan,
Yeah.
Christoph, and them, like, just have them all on and just talk about all of this stuff and like what they're doing over there, because like they're kind of the best in the business for this like standalone HDMI tapping into the digital output of these consoles space.
I
So I,
totally agree.
you know, have to what we'll see what we do. That could be a fun one. I think people might enjoy that.
Yeah, play some N64 live with the guys talking about making it.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
always fun to hear directly from those who made it.
Yep.
I guess
Precisely.
we wouldn't really have that much more to say about it than what we said about their other products. I mean,
That
there's a few things about the N64 that makes this even more interesting. But
Yeah, that's the thing. It's more like I want to talk about why this is such an important thing for people making content like we do,
yeah,
or like integrating this into the setup is so critical. Um, it makes a big difference. So between that, those HDMI mods, and then of course the RetroTink, I feel like
yeah.
we're in a really good state right now in terms of being able to capture retro footage,
Do
which
you
hopefully.
have the Ultra HDMI?
No, I don't have that. My other
I never tried
N64
that.
was just an RGB modded one, which is good. It
Yeah.
has the Tim Worthington mod in it. Ultra HDMI seems to be comparable, but not quite as feature rich as I understand it. But I can't speak for sure. We have to ask Try, because he's been on the Ultra HDMI train for a long time. So, um, how's the chat doing tonight? We're slowly getting viewers in here again before we get started. How's everybody doing? Hopefully well on this lovely Sunday evening. Um,
Yes, it's we're a few days late because we had a bit of a delay on a few files for the direct this week, so we had to do it on
yes.
Sunday. But it's kind of nice to do it on Sunday because this is the last part, so it's kind of
Yeah.
nice to wrap it all up with the public release. So
It's cool that this
don't
is
mind so
finally
much.
it's finally done. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
this was such a big project to work on, and I look back on it very fondly now, and it's cool to be at the finish line. It's like, okay, it's all out. And speaking of that, we also put the full 3-hour version is now live for all patrons. So obviously, anybody watching us now are as part of the retro tier, of course. But if you're a patron, for other patrons as well, they get that. But for the public, it's all broken up into those 3 chunks. So, but we're starting. We're gonna start working on our next episode soon, I think.
I think we both started, from what I understand.
Yeah, I did a little bit earlier this week. We're getting underway on that. We'll see how that goes, and then
let me share the Patreon link, and then let people file in, because we just put out the Patreon mention here that we are live.
Oh no, Michelle has neighbors' children singing on the balcony. That happens.
No. Oh no. Well, maybe they're singing good songs. I don't
know. Yeah. Let's see.
Does
here.
Your boy sing a lot, John? I can't say I've ever heard.
No, he doesn't really sing much. Nope. Yeah.
Good songs? I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. So we got a few folks in here already. Let's see.
Does your boy sing a lot, John?
Yeah,
I contemplated using the actual Discord role messenger, but people always get very upset when I ping more than one person in a chat. So maybe.
Whoops.
It's a feature in Discord, damn it. I'm allowed to use it as I please.
Exactly. Come on now. Let us use all the features. So
I know.
But yeah, so tonight's, looking at this episode, this final piece that comes out, this is I think this one is more special for you in the sense that, I mean, this was your launch, basically. Right?
Yeah, it certainly brought back a lot of memories for me. And I've always had, in general, when it comes to Europe versus the US, I've always had a somewhat, I shouldn't say issue, but I always seen a lack of actual impression, because it's not, I think we kind of lump US and Europe together compared to Japan. So it's like Japanese launch, Western launch. But as you can clearly see in this episode, not just from the games, the actual communication of the console was actually quite different in Europe. In Europe, it was very much marketed as kind of like a hi-fi, must-own thing for your household. Whereas in the US, I think it was generally more 94, 95-ish gaming market nonsense. The kind of like
it was different,
play it loud type thing. So
yeah, I feel like that's exactly right. But yeah, the European launch just usually doesn't seem to get its due in general. When online, at least, you see some people talk about it, but it seems to get the least amount of coverage compared to the other regions. So
yeah, and I kind of wonder why that is. I guess it's because most big gaming YouTubers tend to be from the US, maybe.
It seems that way. I mean, there's a lot in the UK, of course, but still. But yeah,
the UK scene.
Should we get rolling here on this then? As it sounds like some people might want to jump off to watch some football.
I think this episode is about 45 minutes.
Yeah, this is the shortest part, I think.
Yeah.
47,
so
47:55.
Yeah, so if we start now, we should be able to get everyone wrapped up and go home for the soccer game, which I will not be watching because I hate soccer.
I don't mind it, but I'm not going to be watching either. But after we go through this episode, there is some bonus footage we have to show that you may or may not have seen, but we wanted to talk about it, and it would have been good for the episode, but it was uncovered too late. But that's okay. So let's get this show on the road and start talking. So welcome everybody that has arrived, and you know the drill by now, so let's do it. Okay. So yeah, This was the only weird thing, was like starting from the different chapters. I had to put the part 3 on there.
Oh yeah, I know. I just noticed that.
It was a little bit weird, but so this part was so for each region we had to have an introduction basically, and this is the one where you did it yourself for
Yep.
the first time, where you actually filmed. This is different than filming for the directs and the other stuff. This is actually like you had the camera out and you recorded all this. Did you have a teleprompter? Did you buy one?
No,
So,
even if I have one, I really cannot use teleprompters.
yeah,
Like
that's right.
I fall out of sync, so I always ad lib as much as I can.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well, you
I just
all
did a
right.
few.
It turned out good.
Yeah, I do a few different takes, and that came up in the comments today as it went that public, because there is a band mentioned later which I did mispronounce. So, and according to YouTube law, of course, I am now forever doomed to hear about that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we had to get a little bit of Richard in here as well.
Yes, because he was there and he was like a journalist at the time.
Yeah.
He saw this from the inside, and we felt it was important to have him in there. So, because I was still, how old was I when this launched? 10, 11 years old?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so...
The thing for this is apparently the company Richard was working for put in a bid to do the official PlayStation magazine, but Future
yeah.
kind of won out on that. They spent a lot, like £1 million or more, or something, I don't know, like a lot to get the rights for it. And instead, Richard's company, I think it was EMAP, they went with Sega as one of their big mags. So that's why he did the Sega. He was the editor of Sega Saturn magazine. But also before that,
he fits Sega better though.
I agree. Did you ever read Maximum?
Yeah, of course.
Those few issues. He said that was the hardest he's ever worked on, like putting out a sort of a product kind of thing, and sounds like it was difficult.
I have a issue of Maximum, I think.
Okay, that's cool.
So, yeah. But yeah, it was good to have Rich in there, because generally, if we invite Rich onto these episodes these days, it's somewhat unflattering for him. So it's like, hey, do you actually want to be taken seriously for once? And it's like,
yeah,
yes.
Exactly. That's what it was. Oh yeah, these ads.
Yeah, it was fun finding all these different ads from.
Again, though, it is important to note that like pretty much this whole section here, you pretty much edited yourself and just sent me the files. I did a few touch-ups, but you did this whole section, and I thought it turned out really awesome. This is a good introduction to, because a lot of the stuff you talk about I wasn't as familiar with or didn't have that same sense for, especially your upcoming point about Demo 1, which
Demo 1 was really important to Europe, and it's something that never comes up, but that Demo 1 disc, man, that it was everywhere, and I think for the first few years of PlayStation, that was our image.
Wait. Look what's back there.
Oh yeah, I saw it.
CDI.
And apparently Dave White from GameSack.
Yes. Oh yeah.
These were also fun to source. I had to look everywhere for like footage of 90s dancing, like techno scenes and raves. And I found just to note that I found some that seemed to be home videos, like really small YouTube accounts. And I was like, I can't use this because it's too small and it's clearly personal videos.
Right,
and there was one of them where some illegal substances were being inhaled.
Okay.
And I was like, wow, you put this on YouTube? All right. But I couldn't put them on blast, obviously. So I did not use that footage.
Oh, yeah. So I guess you're talking about the Psygnosis,
the SDK,
and the SDK.
Yeah. And you, of course, had to get some more Mahjong in there. And the games in the background here is
Bubsy 3D and Ridge Racer. Oh, there it is, Demo 1. You have it.
Oh, of course. That's my original copy from my original PS. So, and this introduction, it was kind of like it's a bit of a callback to the beginning of the episode of doing the PlayStation boot up, because this is for us the same nostalgia that song and this introduction.
That's cool. Wow. Yeah, I mean, we definitely had demo discs, but I can't, there's none that stick out in this way. I guess.
Came with that digipack and everything. So I do think, from what I understand for some of the comments, the actual demos and video files were on one of the US demos, but it didn't have this menu.
No.
So it was just simplistic.
Exactly. It lacked the presentation aspect.
Yeah, because this is just like, again, this harkens back to like the industrial rave-ish kind of, the lights and the steel background and all that stuff. It was all, Scooter and techno.
Yep.
So I love this Twisted Metal demo, by the way, because it makes the game look way more action-packed than I felt it was when I actually played it.
Yeah. I gotta turn up the volume for this part because this gets pretty good.
Yes, the T-Rex. This bad boy runs in real time and was an absolutely phenomenal display of the hardware. This really became the showpiece for the system in regards to its potential. And with the ominous music and the hyper-realistic dinosaur model, it really was one of those moments you'll never forget the first time you saw it. You can rotate the camera, you can zoom in and out. You can even open its mouth and overlay Richard Ledbetter's voice in post to fit in perfectly.
Join our supporter program today. It's radical.
Of course, we can't forget about the Manta Ray either, which is actually my personal favorite and something I would often put on in the background while I was doing homework. So much so that my dad would buy me a book about the fish for Christmas.
Was it the same demo disc in several countries, or was mastered for each magazine? That was different. Magazine demo discs were different. But this wasn't a magazine. Yeah, you're better now. This wasn't a magazine demo disc. Oh, now you're way too loud.
Okay, there we go. We'll try that. But that was not a magazine. Whoa, it was not a magazine demo disc, was it?
No, it came with the console. It was also given out, which I'm not really sure why, because it was a pack-in, but I do remember that at malls and stuff, they would give it out. So I'm not really. I'm wondering if the ones that they gave out were only videos, like
possibly
that you could put in a computer, but I haven't been able to verify.
So I had to do this part. So essentially, the idea here was one, I wanted to get the SLES numbers in for the games that came out in other regions as well. But two, it was a good chance to talk about the PAL format.
Today, I've seen quite a few complaints that we go into this, which I'm not surprised about. But
wait, really?
I saw, on Twitter and stuff, because they feel like it wasn't relevant, which it absolutely was. We knew about this. Yeah, we knew about this from just the Sonic stuff.
Plus, just talk to somebody like Richard who was there for it, and he couldn't stand the PAL stuff, and I know he wasn't alone.
No. So, but I can understand for some people it did not matter, but it certainly was a thing. And in some cases, it does break the games, like Sonic and I would say Rapid Reload.
And I mean, I just remember, like, even on old, like, Usenet posts and stuff back then, sometimes, there'd be people from the UK on there, and they'd always be asking, is this slow? Does this have borders?
Yeah.
And at the time, I didn't really understand what they were talking about, but this is exactly it. And
some of the magazines had also started reporting on this during the Mega Drive days, because there was always like Super Play and
I'm pretty sure
Mean Machines.
Yeah, Mean Machines probably would have commented on this.
Yeah, there was always an import section where they brought this up. So no, we were well aware. So
yeah, it's odd that people think that wouldn't be relevant, I must say, because it I feel like seems to have been enough awareness that at least the people that maybe were not into it were those that just, are less sensitive to this stuff, which is going to be some people, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't be discussed.
Yeah. It's like lag on a controller, you have to talk about it.
Exactly. But some people don't notice it. They say, there's no lag, but there's definitely lag. So it's the same situation here.
Michel, we had the official PlayStation magazine in Sweden, but as Svenska PlayStation Magasinet. Yes, I had that too, and eventually it was translated to Norwegian, but it was the same content.
Aha. So this was definitely probably, in terms of just like impact, this was probably the biggest game for the European launch.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
It's a shame that this was not a US launch title as well, because this was also big in the US. I remember hearing a lot about this when this was coming.
Yeah, and I think the music and again, like the light effects and all this goes back into where teenagers was at the time. So
Yep.
this was the image of PlayStation, you know, this and Toshinden and the games like that.
Exactly. And looking at this, I mean, it's dated, but I still think this looks and plays like pretty darn well. I guess I think Wipeout 1 is pretty okay still. Wipeout 2097 / Wipeout XL though is really good. Like surprisingly great even now. Like it looks so good. It's kind of amazing what those guys achieved on there.
Yeah. This is to me kind of like timeless design. So you can find technical flaws, but I think that the design is timeless. And we were really quite good at designing things timeless back then, I think. I think our vision for the future was obscured enough that we could kind of use our imaginations a little bit more. Today, I find it to be a little bit kind of streamlined.
And also, as I See Dead People says, the Negicon was awesome with Wipeout. The only thing that sucks is that if you use the Negicon with Wipeout 3, it causes it to crash.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Which is really, so it works with the older games, but not Wipeout 3, not easily anyway. I don't know. I've never been able to get it to work.
Here's hackers.
Here's this. Hackers, yes. I think that afternoon we were working this, I was like, hey, can you source me some footage from Hackers?
Yeah, I have the Blu-ray.
You knew exactly what scene.
Yeah.
I'll get that scene for you.
It's a terrible movie in the best possible way. So I have that Blu-ray. So I was like,
I haven't seen it for a long time. That's the only part I remember was the Wipeout.
It's one of Angelina Jolie's first movies. It's like that and Cyborg 2, the sequel to the Van Damme movie. Not starring Van Damme.
Sadly.
They changed the music in the US launch of Wipeout, did they? I'm not familiar with that.
So they didn't change it. They just removed some of the tracks. Yes.
License then?
Yeah. Basically all the Cold, what's his name? The main musician for this, all his tracks were in, but the extra licensed Cold Storage music was all in there, but all the licensed stuff was taken out.
Oh, so I see. Okay.
But that amounts to 3 tracks. There's basically 3 songs missing in the US version. And I think they're also missing in the Japanese version, actually. So I think only the European version has all the music. And it runs like it's actually a decent PAL game. Like it fills the screen. It doesn't feel slow. Like it is 25 frames per second, of course, but it feels optimized for the PAL. Whoa. Okay, yeah.
What a stark contrast that was.
Sprite cars
Destruction
and low frame
Derby.
rates.
Destruction Derby is the same. It runs better in PAL than it does the US.
Ooh. Then we switch back to Wipeout. It's like,
look at this beautiful stage here. I love the blues.
Yeah, it's very, very beautiful colors.
Yeah. You know, I've never heard much impressions from Japan regarding Wipeout.
Have you seen the original cover art for Wipeout 1 in Japan? It's so good.
Yeah, I've seen that.
That red cover. Oh my god. I actually own most of the versions of Wipeout I own are the Japanese versions, mainly because I thought the covers were rad.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so the Saturn version of Wipeout, it's not good. I mean, I talk about it in the video. I actually do have that copy as well back here. I have that and Destruction Derby for Japanese Sega Saturn, and they both have the same problem where the frame rate is low. I mean, you can see it doesn't look terrible, but it just runs kind of blah.
Yeah.
It's 20 FPS instead of 30. You can really tell.
Wipeout XL for Saturn in Japan is so expensive these days.
Oh, that's interesting because Wipeout XL for Saturn is actually not good as well. It's just like this. It has the same exact problem where it runs way slower than the PlayStation version. Yeah, Destruction Derby as well. Same problem, lower frame rate.
It's interesting though that these games that we associate so heavily with the identity of PlayStation are on the Saturn and PC.
I know, right? That's crazy. It was especially true. Psygnosis games in general pretty much always came out on the PC as well as on the PlayStation.
Yeah.
And even, big stuff like Tomb Raider, which was not first party, but first one was on Saturn, but then after that, they all just came to PlayStation and PC until, I guess, the fourth one, which then also came to Dreamcast in a rather lousy form.
Oh, that one was bad, yeah, I do.
Yeah, look at the PC version here, because the software mode runs in 256 colored mode, so it's like it's not, instead of 16-bit color mode, so it's actually quite a bit drearier looking, and it's missing all the lighting.
Yeah,
but I think it ran on a 486. Oh yeah, that's how you can play it on a 486.
I kind of like this.
I kind of wish you could turn off all the textures.
Yeah, right.
That would be pretty cool. Super X Elixir has it's Flodder nickname from the Discord, right? Okay, he's asking if there's any good PAL exclusives on PS1.
Not just from launch.
Not just from launch.
I love Asterix. Just a game called Asterix. It's a Risk clone with some good 3D platforming sections.
Oh wait,
and very good music.
Before you continue with that, I just wanted to. I guess I said it. This is actually a proper ATI Rage Pro that I dug out just to play this and put it in my old PC. So this is legitimate footage running on an old Rage card.
Oh.
Keeping it real here. But anyway, so Asterix on PlayStation. Good stuff.
Yeah, that's actually quite good and quite overlooked. Other exclusives in Europe for PlayStation. There probably are some, but generally I find that like Europe had a lot of exclusives from Japan, like so that the US didn't get them.
Yeah, exactly. Like the Note.
Like the Note from Sunsoft, which I made you buy.
Yes, you did.
A good thing I did, because it got very expensive suddenly.
Mm-hmm. You're right. It did. Oh, yeah. Okay, so this is Air Combat / Ace Combat.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Showing Japanese footage there. Yeah, the only version I own of this is the Japanese version. I can't remember if I actually did Yeah, I showed the title screen for Ace Combat, and then oh yeah, there's the that arcade game.
Yeah,
which looks pretty awesome actually.
It's very different. Yeah. I like
all
this.
The polyester pimp is here.
Oh,
you made
fantastic. The party started then.
Now the party can get started. Okay, I actually did. Yeah, okay. This is the English version. I had capture of the Japanese version, but I went and got some footage from this as well.
Yeah, I think the reason why wasn't it that we originally thought Ace Combat came out in the US launch as well, though?
We were confused by that because there's some evidence that it might have been at launch, but I basically went back to a lot of like Usenet posts and like old schedule stuff and just digging through as much stuff as I could, and kind of determined that no, in fact, it came out a little after launch, like just a little bit after launch. Like it's possibly just like the next week, basically. So I decided I'll just wait and do it here in the European section, since we know it was launch.
Our criteria was like day one games, like
correct.
When you picked up your console, what games could you get on day one? And generally, it seemed like a lot of the release late came out in like December.
And this is really important, by the way, because this is something that you and I spent a lot of time on. Because I feel like a lot of videos, a lot of articles, it's all over the place in terms of what is launch. Like no two piece has the same games as the exact same games as launch, and we wanted to get it correct. Where we would only talk about the day one games. And I'm pretty confident that we got there in the end.
I think so, because we spent a lot of time just verifying every game,
Yeah,
and
just pouring
from
through
everything
so much
from
stuff.
physical magazines to Usenet posts and archives to like anything.
And, and that's
So-
what gets weird, because sometimes the physical magazines were wrong.
Yeah.
Because schedules would change. Sometimes there was like ads, like Discworld was advertised as coming out at launch in the US.
Yeah.
It did not. Stuff like that. So it just changed, and we had to take a lot of time to make sure that that was actually, accurate.
So in terms of day one purchases for me, the actual day one purchase that I made back then was Battle Arena Toshinden and Rapid Reload. So this was kind of the game that I had when it came out. And when I went back to play it for this segment, because
Yeah.
I was curious how it now compared to the Japanese version, as I've been playing the Japanese version for the last few years.
Yeah, exactly.
And my God, I had no idea how like slow this conversion actually was, and to the point where I would find it very hard to suggest playing the European version of this, even with this slight translation. This story doesn't matter in this game
No.
at all. It makes no sense in Japanese or English. So,
I always
but the important part is
got
here.
Hook in there. That's
because-
the important part. That's the important
Yes.
part.
Hook and Punky Skunk.
Yes.
No, the important part was that I actually went through.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
have the Hook Encyclopedia. I have, which is for the game, not the movie. And
Yes.
I went back to different posts and articles from '94 regarding this game in '95. And I uncovered that the game had started production on the Super Famicom from Ukiyote. And I could not find any English mention of this.
No,
anyway.
you did not. Yeah, exactly. You found just like an old Japanese post somewhere.
Yeah.
And it
With the director of the game.
yeah.
So, and it makes sense. You look at it, and it looks like a Super Famicom game.
It absolutely
Ukiyote
does.
was very much focused on bringing kind of these experiences to Super Famicom that they felt weren't there. So, and then the soundtrack, which comes later. There are two soundtracks. There's Mode A and Mode B.
Yep.
And I was playing through both, and I couldn't find confirmation on this, but I'm pretty confident to say that Mode B is actually the compositional data that was supposed to be plotted into the SBC 700. Yeah.
And neither one is Red Book Audio, right? Or is one of them?
No.
I feel like
don't think it
we
was.
checked this out, and then at the last minute we realized it wasn't. I think it was
It's
originally
XA audio.
Yeah, it's X. That's what it was. At first, we thought it was CD audio, and then we just put the disc in the player, and it's like, oh wait, and then looked at the files, and it's like, oh wait, it's actually XA audio.
Yes.
So you had to do a little patch for that, I think.
I punched in a fix
Punched
for
it
that.
in.
So, but yeah, it was fun uncovering all that because, I think it's a pretty good game. I think it's pretty awesome.
I agree.
And,
I would say
one
it's
that
not.
gets
It's not.
overlooked.
It's not as creative, I think, as some of Treasure's. I know you're not the biggest Treasure fan. I am, but I think that even if you don't love Treasure's games, like the amount of like just sheer variety and creativity on display in every stage is like that's like their thing. That's what they do, and this doesn't quite match that. But I think it's absolutely awesome. All the same.
Yeah. I think this is a perfectly competent action game. Just kind of like it's a fun game. It's not revolutionary in any way. But for me, it was the exact gap that I needed to get into the PlayStation because I wasn't ready for
3D?
that jump at the time. Yeah.
Oh, right.
I was not. I hadn't been playing PC or anything, so this was kind of my way.
I definitely missed this one back in the day. Obviously, I did not know about its existence until like 5 years later. I was like, oh,
I also cheated a little bit here because I realized late that like I have not captured anything of the other character, so I used the music transition to show them both off.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I mean, you had imported stuff early on, I think. But for me,
Yeah.
I didn't import a single thing until like the year 2000. That was the
I started
first time
importing on the
so,
NES. Yeah,
Dang,
I
that's
had
amazing.
we had the store in Oslo that could do that for us, and we had the lockout pin removed from our NES. And then on Super Nintendo, we had the converter, the cartridge converter.
For
Which
me, I pretty much was like, because I was into the Saturn and stuff, I discovered that, hey, you can get a lot of cool Saturn games for like really
Yeah.
cheap from Japan that didn't come out in the US.
Yeah.
And I was, for a while, I just did the swap trick, which was horrible. Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, the
voice
voice.
stuff. That's right. Oh, they took that out of the European one, right?
Yeah. They simplified the translations severely also because
Yeah.
I realized that they're kind of constrained to the width of the boxes, and so they only have so many English characters they can put on screen at once.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it's
Oh,
an interesting little thing. But MediaVision, man, they were there for Japan, they were there for Europe. Awesome company, and then of course, as we mentioned here, Wild Arms would go on to be a huge franchise for them.
That was a big deal.
And for PlayStation.
Oof, look at that.
Yeah.
It feels like the game has perpetual slowdown, basically.
Mm-hmm.
It's like playing Super Empire Strikes Back.
This game also, for unknown reasons to me, and I actually talked to Dan Coons about this, the European version, Rapid Reload, continuously overheated my unit, and we could not figure it. Didn't have that issue.
This was the cause. So when you first ran into it, it was because of this game.
It was because of this game. So there's something going on here,
and it works otherwise with the other games.
Didn't have that issue with anything else.
That's so weird.
Might be a firmware thing. This was fun also to uncover. It was like these nods to Rapid Reload in Wild Arms, because I wasn't too familiar with. So I played Wild Arms 1, but I'm not too familiar with the series.
3. The thing is, normally I would have gone to the effort of capturing that bit. But because we were so close to the end of the episode, and it was like the last day we were working on this, I think we were just like, we just got to finish this.
That, and like it's not at the beginning of the game, so
no, that's true.
You go ahead.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. For the
RPGs
stuff.
Those are harder to capture and talk about for that reason.
Those are definitely a pain.
So. But now that we did now that we had help with My Life in Gaming for that Final Fantasy 14, we definitely seen the potential of RPG episodes.
That's true. Oh my goodness.
Noah Storm.
Oh, dude, I felt like I was having a revelation every few minutes with Nova Storm.
Yeah, you kept messaging me about this.
Because it was
like, are we really excited about Noah Storm?
I was. I didn't realize how many different variations of Nova Storm there was. It's kind of insane, actually. Like, does anybody in the chat that familiar with Nova Storm or played this back in the day? I was quite familiar with it. I didn't really play it. I just knew of it. So it was definitely well marketed.
Yeah.
I played this, though.
Oh, of course. Mega Race.
Oh, yeah.
Michelle says, I remembered I searched a lot for Rapid Reload when I bought my PS1, but I must have had a really low print run, or we got very few discs to Sweden. So I didn't play it until 10 years ago. Yeah, I've heard this from Germans and from French people as well. So I think it actually had a pretty low print run, from what I understand. And I can kind of see why, because it was so like Super Nintendo that I don't think Sony had that. We didn't have that same policy, unofficial policy of no 2D games on a 3D console thing going on in Europe. But we still had, in terms of marketing and ad placements, they still got shafted if they were 2D. So
Yeah, I think that's right. Look at that. All those different versions. So weirdly enough, the Mega CD version, even though it has like very low color depth, like when you play it on a CRT, it kind of looks okay. Like it has a very
great.
abstract look. This weird bright CGI stuff, I think, is actually kind of ugly in comparison. I'm not a big fan.
Dan Longman is asking, trying to remember when the DualShock controller came out for the PS1. I know the NeoCon came out way earlier, but it was only a few years after launch the DualShock came out, or was it longer?
There was actually
DualShock.
So there was first, if you remember, there was the dual analog controller, right? And that actually came out in like early 98, or sorry, early 97 in Japan, and it had those longer handles on it and like the concave analog sticks. But then that didn't have rumble though. But then they released the DualShock. I think it was like the end of 97 originally. So it would have been 3 years after the Japanese launch when the DualShock hit. And I think it's pretty obvious that Nintendo 64 having an analog stick inspired both Sony and Sega. Sega had the 3D controller with the analog thing for Knights and other games. And then, of course, Sony had the DualShock. And the DualShock was actually pretty darn smart with the double analog stick because that kind of became the standard going forward.
But very few games used both analogs on the PS1, though.
Yeah, that's... Well, so Ape Escape used it for gameplay, and then there was a few that used the right stick for camera, but very few of them actually used it quite right because the dual analog like camera system wasn't really like nobody had really figured that out yet, except for that Alien Resurrection.
Which is a crazy game. I look forward to talking about that. Yes.
Hold on, that's my favorite part.
White. Plus, the second stage has this music that sounds like a dog barking. But here's where things get weird. The PlayStation version is basic.
I couldn't. You play that level, and that whole level, it's just it's that sound. It totally sounds like a little dog.
Barks.
Yeah, it does. Oh yeah, this PlayStation version, I found it really annoying to play compared to some of the others. Not a brilliant game. Interesting, but I don't love it.
Yeah, I mean,
FMV shooters. What can you do?
I enjoy them more today than I did back then, I think.
Actually, you might be right. You know what I like more than this, though, is I think Rebel Assault's more fun than Nova Storm.
Yes, I absolutely agree with that.
The thing about these bosses is because it's a video, you have to beat the boss before the video file's over. Otherwise, you just spontaneously explode.
Yeah.
Which is, that's pretty annoying. I did not like that. Yeah, look how different that looks. Wow.
Yeah, I didn't really give this game even a look back in the day. Like this wasn't on my radar.
That's the thing about this video is it pushed us to look at everything. Yeah. I never had compared all these different versions of Nova Storm and had no idea that they were all different.
One thing we didn't talk much about last time we should note was that, because I saw some comments on it, Zero Divide. Zero Divide was that robot fighting game.
Yeah. And
we began production on that segment. And that was one of those games where it was like, this didn't release on day one. Like, nope. It's open for the debate if it came out in the same month. But even then, we couldn't find any. Most of what we found suggested like 3 weeks later, was it?
Something like that. All the release schedules had it later. And in the only mentions I could find of it online as far as that time period was people that had the Japanese import.
Yes.
And there was a few people that were like, oh, I'm selling my Japanese console to get a US one, and I have these games with it, including Zero Divide and stuff like that. But all the release lists peg Zero Divide is coming out later.
But
So
we will be looking at that series in the future
and
in some
yeah, definitely.
in some video.
And fundamentally, that's a problem. If you just go to Google and you type in PS1 launch lists,
Yeah.
they're either super incomplete or they have games like that on it that weren't actually launched. And I don't know where they sourced this info from, but as best as we can tell, and I don't remember, like, I mean, I didn't get a PS1 on day one, but a friend of mine did. And I remember when we were like, I was helping him pick the games to buy, basically. And I definitely don't remember Zero Divide being a thing at all yet. But then searching online suggests that was indeed the case. And yeah, I had to show some bug with an exclamation point. That's a funny anecdote. One of my DF retros, I referenced bug with the exclamation point as you're supposed to, and Richard removed it from the article copy. And I asked him about it, and he was just like, bug with an exclamation point will never appear on Eurogamer.net as long as I'm in charge of Digital Foundry. So,
and he stuck to his word so far.
So we got
but yeah, this
Geograph Seal here.
Geograph Seal, amazing music.
Yeah, this is
I do not have a sound canvas to demonstrate this music, but
I was not entirely familiar with this, and this is kind of mind blowing for the 68K.
Yes,
like, this is really, really cool. Like, I can't believe
absolutely insane. Yeah.
To me, this is like it looks like a Super FX game, but with a bit more complexity.
Yeah.
But this had no extra hardware, unlike the Super FX chip on the Super NES. This was just the 68K.
Yeah. Exacting Ultra.
Oh yeah.
Baron Aloha. Oh, is this where
So the thing about this part was this was your last section of the video. And
yes.
I think this section turned out pretty good, actually. But you were really down. You were like, "Oh man, I am so done." Where it's like almost midnight.
I was very tired, and I just I'm not the most energetic reader as it is, and I just felt like that.
But you still did that.
I still did that. I still had made that Tinder profile for Rich. But yeah, I don't know. I just still don't feel like this was as good as I could have made it. But if you're happy, then
I think it's quite good. I think it's not as good as some of the other ones, like your Street Fighter piece, but that's okay. Yeah. Not everything needs to be that level, but I actually think it's still quite entertaining. There's a lot of good info here.
Yeah, I tried to research this enough that because Jumping Flash, I think people actually have talked about a lot.
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of bring out some more information on it and also show off more of the game, because I tend to find that most of the footage is like stage 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, exactly.
But you have these under cavern segments and these maze stages.
The other thing about this game that really gets me though is the frame rate is so unstable and like just so variable that it really hurts it for me.
Yeah,
it should have had a 30 FPS cap.
It should have, because you can jump up to, I think, 50 upper 50s. No, I don't think it ever lands on 60.
No, it does, but
does it?
Very rarely.
Yeah,
but if you're like towards the edge of the world and you kind of jump up, you'll see it spike up to 60 sometimes. But
okay.
In general, it's not.
Yeah, I do make a note of it that like at some places you literally in a jump will go from like 60 to like 22 in the jump. So by the time you land, you've over like half the frame rate. So that's not great for platforming, because momentum is everything, and you're just like zooming through and then slowing down and zooming through again. So
the thing though is this concept is cool, and I'm really sad that PlayStation 2 didn't get a version of this, because I feel like the PS2 could have really done this justice.
Oh yeah,
smooth 60 FPS, like more complex level design with like big view distance and everything, and it would have been so cool. I don't what happened to these guys? Like, why did this just stop after the third one?
Robbie, mon Dieu.
Yeah.
Some theories is, of course, that the game's like reputation was shot
Oh.
due to Eno.
Oh yeah,
which,
you said that's right. You talked about that where he stepped on the Robbit.
yeah, which he absolutely did, and I love
Yeah.
him. But I don't. I think that's an internal Sony thing, probably. Then,
Yeah.
where it's like, hey, because he did that at a Sony event, mind you,
I know.
and then morphed the Sony logo into the Sega Saturn logo.
I just want to know how he picked Robbit of all things to associate.
'Cause
the
it was-
PlayStation with.
Internally at Sony of Japan, that was the mascot that they were going to move forward with at the time.
Oh, I see.
So, and his color scheme and everything is PlayStation related. So, like, no, I totally see why he did it, but I think it was an internal thing at Sony where it's like, this character is dead to us.
That sucks.
So,
Robbit's better than Crash.
oh yeah, for sure, for sure. But I would have loved more.
Yeah,
Would have loved
Heck,
more.
I'd still be up for some
Flash.
a new Robbit game right now.
Both, yeah. And both this and Toshinden. I would have loved like a PS2 entry on those.
Yeah, that could have been. They could have really refined it, I think, on the PS2 era. But alas.
Or nowadays they can do like Sega Ages to 500, where it's like you get the original games and like remasters on the same discs or something. I would have loved something like this.
That would be fine. Oh, what I don't love is this though.
You know what's not a good game?
Yeah. Lemmings 3D/3D Lemmings. I put both because I saw it written both ways, even within like official marketing materials for this darn thing, and that's why. It's because of they put the 3D on the eye, so nobody's ever sure like what it is. I loved these old Lemmings games, but I hate Lemmings
Same.
3D, especially the Lemmings Chronicles.
Yeah.
That one, I think I showed briefly. Yeah, this one is awesome.
I like Tribes.
Yeah. The Tribes, Lemmings 2.
Yeah.
This was the third one then, Chronicles.
Mhm.
And then,
Of course, Lomax.
yeah. But
Gotta
then
love some
obviously,
Lomax.
DMA Design went on to do Grand Theft Auto. And
Which
instead, the guys that
really
made
is
Wiz and
crazy.
Liz made 3D Lemmings.
Yeah. Oh yeah, these cutscenes.
And this introduction is like 5 minutes long.
Yeah.
It's so slow paced. Like, it just I do find it entertaining though, but like every motion takes a long time. So I will say, I think I say it in the video, but playing 3D Lemmings on the PC, it's very like much better. Like it's kind of acceptable because you have better camera control and you have an actual mouse cursor. So just like navigating and clicking on stuff is like easy. Because I mean, look at the interface here. That's a mouse interface mapped to a gamepad. And it just doesn't feel good at all. I hate playing.
And this did not have the mouse support, right?
No. And this was the one where, so I own the long box on PlayStation, but I don't have the Saturn version. And I tried to burn it and I just couldn't get it to work. It just would not run. I don't know why. So I wasn't able to capture the Saturn version because it wouldn't play. And I wasn't going to spend money on the Saturn version because I have tried it before and it's very bad. It's much worse than this, actually. I mean, it's basically this, but the frame rate's like 20 instead of 30. Yeah. See, but when I was young, I did actually play this game on the PC and I liked it.
Yeah.
And it was because of the 3D graphics. I thought that was cool.
But I can totally see why.
But in retrospect, it's the worst Lemmings by far.
Yeah. This is not good.
Oh yeah, there's the PC version. Which I actually, you notice how the PC version has infinite black backgrounds? Mm-hmm. I actually prefer that. It gives a better sense of scale where you just have these like large like empty spaces that stretch off instead of like the mountains around. I prefer that.
But this was probably the segment you enjoyed the least working on from
This
what
was
I
my-
could gather.
This was my last segment too, and I was just
Yeah.
like,
We were pretty done at this point.
yeah.
And just kind of like,
This was like we had worked for 10 days straight, all day. By the time I was working on this, it was like midnight on Saturday, or like almost midnight Saturday night, the day before this is supposed to come out, and I was still finishing this, and I'm just like,
yeah, it required some. It required some meditation to get through this part because we were just like, like.
Also, the PC version, the game speed is correct on my PC, but well, it's playable. But you notice how all the animated stuff, like the water, runs at like super high frame rate.
Yeah,
The Pentium 3 is too fast for it. But at least it doesn't mess up the gameplay. The gameplay is correct. It's just the liquids all look too fast.
Oh man, here's the Jelly Bean stage. Can't have a European game without like candy tie-in.
I love the way I ended this segment though with the well, you know, right where it belongs. That was
And
it.
that's it.
And then we do the ending bit. So I'm gonna turn that up a little bit.
PlayStation had
So we-
officially launched in
so we
each
finish
of its
off in
primary
style.
territories. From this humble selection of games, the PlayStation library would grow by leaps and bounds over the following
Yeah,
years.
this is another idea we had
Many
from the
games
beginning. yeah.
mentioned today would go on to
Exactly.
receive sequels in time, while powerhouse franchises were formed or reborn on the PlayStation. In many ways, gaming as we know today was born from this era, but at the same time, much of what makes the PlayStation so special has seemingly been forgotten as well. This experimental time, a time when anything was possible,
So wistful.
truly helped change the gaming landscape forever.
Oh yeah, and then I get to the end here.
And there you have it, the complete retrospective on the origins of the Sony PlayStation. What started as a partnership between Nintendo and Sony ended up changing the video game industry. Sega Saturn would unfortunately fail to catch on in the West, but it did find success in Japan, where it lived a long life outperforming Nintendo's own next-generation console. Indeed, in 1996, Nintendo finally unleashed its Ultra 64 project, now known as Nintendo 64. Alongside Super Mario 64, it was a revelation, but missteps ensured that it never found the same success as its predecessor. The PlayStation, in comparison, went on to sell more than 100
I love that
million
shot
units
there.
while amassing nearly 8,000
The
games,
Vic Viper in
securing
the
its
background.
place as one of the most successful consoles of all time. And to think, it all started with those 8 games back in 1994.
Yep. Wow.
Wow, what a wild thing. Oh yeah,
All Mahjong fans.
the Atari Jaguar faithful.
There's a lot of music in this episode.
Oh, there was so much. There's 4 pages of it.
Yeah, RetroTink. It's
Oh,
fun
yeah,
to
and
give a shout out to Pixel FX and
That's right.
RetroTink there.
Exactly. So yeah, now the thing I wanted to show as well, though, is something you dug
Yeah,
up from a Japanese show called Tonight.
Yep.
Where they're talking about, it says the Shin Gamuki Senso. So it's like the new console war, and this is let's watch through some of this. I can keep the sound down, I guess, for now. I think I got to skip ahead to the part where they. Oh yeah, so somewhere around here to get into it. So essentially, she's going around. This is what 94, I guess. So this is before the arrival of PlayStation and Saturn, or just as it was arriving. There's the 3DO is out, of course. So this is a there's some footage in here that relates to Jumping Flash, which you'll mention when we get there. But I love this footage here because it really shows us what it was, some real good footage from that era in Japan at that time. And you see the
Unfortunately,
3DO.
we found this after
Yeah,
we finished
exactly.
the episode.
Shockwave from EA Victor. So, would you say that in some ways the 3DO was it more or less there it is.
This was important. Because that was the footage of Springman, which is the Jumping Flash prototype
Yep.
that we mentioned, but we did not have this footage. But yes, what about the 3DO?
The 3DO would you say it was more successful than some of the Xbox consoles in Japan?
Oh, no, like that's not even a contest because the Xbox consoles, the penetration of the market for Xbox has been pretty low overall. I don't know how much the original Xbox sold, but
I think 360 actually did the best of the bunch, and then Xbox One like tanked hard.
Yeah. But the 3DO had a very good launch period, especially in Japan. It had a lot of support and continued to have pretty good support. So I think it was the only market where it was profitable. Oh, here we go.
There we go. So, that's some good information then. So it came out in March 94.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Pretty expensive.
That was pretty expensive, but maybe cheaper than the US, I guess.
Yeah, it would have been.
Yeah, that was cheaper than the US. So that probably helped. I mean, that's expensive, and they don't know the price is that. They're just saying it's below that. So Sony, so the NEC, it just says FX, but that's from NEC, of course. Sega Saturn, Nintendo, Project Reality, and they still had it as September 95, but obviously, that did not happen. So yeah.
Sweet Minnie says that the Xbox original was for wrestling players in Japan. So there's the Wild Rings. That was a Japanese-only Xbox wrestler.
Oh, wow.
And then on 360, there was the only next-gen version of Wrestle Kingdom. So
360 also had Tetris the Grandmaster. A conversion of that. Okay. So yeah, so some more 3DO kiosks in action, which I also remember playing on those kiosks.
It's just awesome to see this footage of like how these these kiosks and stuff looked.
It's good quality footage too.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Like it's actual good upscaled VHS transfer. Makes me wonder if it's actually master transfers.
Yeah, I know exactly. Okay. Yeah, Caves. Okay, so this is Sony Computer Entertainment's Tokyo office.
Mm-hmm.
And look who's in here. In the secret room. Here's more Springman.
Yep.
It says.
And obviously, this is a CGI demo.
Yeah. There he is.
There you go.
Kutaragi Ken. The man. And look what he's using.
Look at that TV.
It's one of those classic 29-inch PVMs.
And
it's a different version of the T-Rex demo than that's just
the head.
It's
Another one.
they made so many variants of this demo. It's wild.
This is just the head, though, and the head has more articulation than
it does.
The one on
Full
the developer disc.
So this says Game Image Giori, but it's not really. It's obviously like a CG thing. I think that's probably by From Software. Like, or
I was gonna say that looks very much like it would be. From Software.
Oh, now she's visiting NEC here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, NEC at this point was in a very tough spot because they had underestimated the market. They had 3 consoles developed. They had like the Project Hammer, which was supposed to be the PC Engine update.
Not the Wii thing, but yes, exactly.
But it all got consolidated down to their FX project, which they felt
so PC Engine, and that's a shame because PC Engine did well in Japan, but obviously they bet on video while everybody else bet on 3D.
Yeah.
and fundamentally that was the wrong choice.
Well, they have explained, and I think again this is kind of like a Western kind of miscommunication, is that NEC wasn't looking to take on PlayStation at their own game, but they were going for a different demographic that they
That's
felt
true.
was going to be more vital, which was a younger, more anime driven, or not anime, but entertainment driven. So they had all these deals to do like official games based on properties and
Oh.
whatnot. So
Yeah,
this
that makes it.
footage.
They pixelated so you can't see. So talking about Project
Silicon
Reality.
graphics. Yeah.
Project Reality Image Eizo Yori. We obviously know that this was far off from what was feasible.
Yeah.
They kept showing this stuff though, and it's just like, I mean, they really did use SGI hardware, but it was so different from that.
Yeah.
Matsushita, the 3DO world. I think that actually helped a lot because 3DO company partnered so heavily with Matsushita
Yeah.
that it basically helped make it like feel like a Japanese product.
Oh, absolutely.
And it kind of was.
They were
It was
good.
partially, yeah. Anyway, so
Draku.
and the 3DO is a nice looking machine, isn't it? Like it's a
Oh,
a very handsome console, especially that original FC1. It's just a good looking machine. Oh, look at all those.
Mega CD.
Bandai.
Yeah, I mean
Oh.
they were doing completely their own thing. So
Mm-hmm.
Sweet Mini bought the PCFX. I thought there would be shmups. I mean, there's one.
Oh man, so I'm so sorry, Sweet Mini. I mean, they're cool, but well,
I have one.
You have one.
I have
yeah.
games. I enjoy games on the PCFX, but I enjoy them, what they are.
I enjoy the PCFX from a historical perspective. I think it's a
Well,
fascinating machine.
The thing about the PCFX is that so you can find like a Zenki FX. That's a traditional, action beat 'em up.
It's fine.
But there's a ton of like adventure games and RPGs that are of much higher quality than a lot of the ones that came out on Saturn and PlayStation. So it's not the library
fits
isn't
that
bad
audience.
at all. It's just
Yeah.
that it's limited in the sense that like that's all you're gonna get basically.
Yeah.
But like Langrisser FX is amazing, and The Last Prince. There's tons of good games on it. Blue Breaker is awesome.
So it's not a bad machine at all. It's just seems like it has some really good stuff, but the library is relatively small.
Yeah.
All things considered.
And the market just wasn't there for what they were trying to do. They were,
Right.
it had language for like 2 years, that project. Had they released earlier on the side of the PC Engine, and then let the PC Engine project continue.
But do we have any indication on, so like they flooded the market with PC Engine variations. Is there any indication that like had a negative impact on people's perception of their game console stuff? Because like, obviously Sega got a lot of shit in the US for doing Sega CD and then 32X, and it was just like, it felt like they were flooding the market with stuff.
I think the price for the revisions were fine enough that I don't think so. The form factor was different. The price was different. So I don't know.
I guess they mostly seem to provide ways to sort of transition between different units as well with the different CD cards. And so I guess they were trying, I mean, it is a lot, but.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was clear that, as I said, they were too late on everything they were trying to do, and they were trying to extend the lifetime of what they had. But, in a different reality, NEC would have been in the race probably 1 or 2 more generations, I'm sure, if they just played their cards better. The Wacky Races. This is not a game. No. I have this. It is just like an animation from a very famous artist in Japan. So it's not even like an official take. It's very strange, this one. It came out on... It came out on other units as well. I have the 3DO version.
Madden Football. So this was really impressive at the time, actually,
Oh yeah.
on 3DO. This was like mind blowing. Same with FIFA and everything. Like the 3DO looked pretty amazing back then. It's just a
Yeah.
shame about those frame rates.
Right.
The Pharaoh's seal, is that what that was? I don't know what this is.
Reminds me of like a Shin Megami Tensei type game.
Yeah. What a weird looking thing. Yeah, this video is really interesting. There's just a lot of stuff in here.
Oh, I just wish we had it a couple weeks earlier.
I
It would have
know.
been.
I know.
But
That would have been very useful.
what can you do?
Exactly. Oh my goodness. Frame rate didn't matter in magazines. It's true. And also frame rate in general, we were a lot more tolerant back then. I knew
Yeah.
about frame rate, but just seeing something in 3D I could like kind of overlook choppiness.
Well, we would have seen the difference in the arcades and stuff anyway from a home conversion
I
to
know.
arcade, so
That's
we
why-
were aware of it.
That's why I've talked about the story with Daytona, where that was like
Yeah,
my
yeah,
awakening to frame rate.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah,
I
that
was aware.
I'd say that when Daytona came out on Saturn was really when that became highlighted more mainstream wise.
Yes.
Conversion was Virtua Fighter maybe was another one, but I remember the
No, well,
coverage of
Virtua
Daytona
Fighter
was
was-
not.
Virtua Fighter 1
kind.
was 30 FPS in the arcade, and it was
Yeah.
also 30 FPS in Saturn. It just looked a
Okay.
little worse, and that was fine. But Daytona went from 60 to 20.
Yeah.
And because Daytona was the game that introduced me to 60, when I saw it on Saturn for the first time, I was just like, I was super bummed out. I was like, okay, this is still like playable, but this is so much worse than the arcade. And I immediately felt like the Saturn was not as powerful as I had hoped when I saw that. Which, as a kid, I also didn't understand that. Okay, yeah, this arcade board probably cost like 20 grand at the time, or something like that, right? Like, they weren't going to be able to bring that home yet.
I remember Stunts. Stunts was a pretty big DOS racer, and very fun to create your own tracks. It's something we probably should make a
Stunts.
video on. Is the 4D series, 4D boxing,
4D
4D
boxing.
driving. Like Stunts was such a huge game, especially here in Europe at the very least. I think so in US as well.
Well, while we talk some more, I'll just put something else weird on in the background. So why not?
Okay.
It's the FAO Sports 1993 reel. It's an actual like storefront showing the US in action at a shop. So, oh, dude, Sweet Mini had Screamer on the PC. Yes, I know. Screamer was cool.
Yeah.
I still like the game. I mean, in retrospect, it doesn't play nearly as well as like a Daytona, but it's fine. It was pretty amazing at the time, except for unless you tried to run it in SVGA mode on a 486, and it was like 5 FPS. I remember that. Man. So yeah, I mean, ultimately, this PlayStation project we did, dude. How you feel? That was pretty good, right? I'm happy with it.
I just wish I said Prodigy correctly, because
It's okay.
that's all that people will remember now, is that I mispronounced that band's name.
I think people will forgive you.
Maybe. Well, hopefully in 10 years.
I know what you
No,
mean. though.
I feel amazing having done that. I feel amazing on behalf of the patrons, because they got like probably the best episode we could put out as a launch, and I'm
Yeah.
very proud of the fact that we didn't, we could have easily stumbled and just like this was too much and it's not what we wanted to do, but we kept up, and I think we made the episode we dreamt of making.
Exactly. And did the whole thing all the way through.
Yeah.
Exactly as we wanted to do. And it was a lot of work, but it was really fun. And we couldn't have done it without the whole supporter program thing from the patrons. Because, no way Richard would have given me the time. But that's good news. I can say Richard was also very happy with how this episode turned out, and he has essentially said that yes, what can we do to ensure that you can make more huge episodes like that again. So
I mean, that just comes down to time.
Exactly.
That's just time. I think for the future, though, when we do this again, as we're not now faced with a launch per se, I think for bigger projects like this, we'll probably work on it on the side until we have a certain amount of footage and production done. And then, the month it's going out, we sit down like, okay, put this together.
Right. Like there's one episode, I'm not going to spoil it here. Audie knows the one that I had started earlier this year. It's a very vast project. It's bigger than the PlayStation project.
Yeah.
And I don't expect to start it really for a while, but over time I've just been capturing footage for it. So I've been amassing a library. I currently have about 30% of the capture done. And I'll just keep going along in that. Once I feel I have everything I need, then we can actually kind of dive into it. That'll probably be sometime next year. But that'll be cool when it happens. Unlike that Ren and Stimpy game right there on Game Boy, that is not cool.
No.
We will not be covering that.
Well, never say never.
Okay, that might.
I'm sure a Ren and Stimpy episode could be fun.
So that is so. That's one type of. So we did a launch episode. We think about episodes in terms of types, right? And often it's like series driven, and there's some popular properties I think that we have in mind for episodes that will be really interesting. Sometimes based on shows, comics, movies. A lot of times those things yielded really interesting games, and often a lot of games. And I think some of those are really, really fun. So, yeah, this is, there's so much to come.
And we'll probably, as we kind of get through some of our projects, I will probably put out like a poll here and there, like what's the next one you guys want to see. I think we're coming up with ideas to make everything more interactive and fun for our patrons, because it's not just to do it to be nice, but the engagement we get from all of you is actually great. So we want to.
It makes it's a lot more. It's a lot more fun for us for sure.
Yeah.
I definitely appreciate that. And
you see that in the direct also, that the patrons actually influence a lot of our DF directs. So
yes, exactly.
It's fun.
It's been going well, I gotta say.
Yeah.
And it's, as an aside, Michelle just asked, the Game Boy to TV thing was really cool. How did that work anyway? I think Nintendo had a special unit specifically where it was like a Game Boy attached to something that you would hook up in a store kiosk. Obviously, no, I don't think you could. I mean, at the time, you certainly couldn't buy it. But
no, there's art. You can find, if you search for it in Google. There's some people that have those units.
Oh, I'm sure they have them now. But when it was new, I don't think Nintendo was selling them to people. They've only found from old retail stores and probably pulled them out that way. Like all of Nintendo's portables have capture hardware you can get for them. Sometimes it's like for developers, sometimes it's for like magazines, sometimes it's for kiosks. That's exactly what that was. I don't think that was not a Super Game Boy. That was just direct to the hardware, so that you could still see the Game Boy itself in the store, but also see it on the TV, because seeing a Game Boy in a store, not so easy.
Look at all them pandas. But on a single ROM now again there.
Yeah, you're right. It's interesting to note is that Air the Acrobat there? Yeah, it is. It's Mortal Kombat, Air the Acrobat, Star Fox. It's interesting. Surprised they would have Mortal Kombat playable in the store, to be honest.
Well, it's a Super Nintendo version.
Oh, right. It's with the sweat.
It's the sweat, yeah. So I'm of the opinion, though, that helped. We talk about what a disaster it was and stuff, but I think that the fact that it was on Super Nintendo and that kids could play it this way was what helped kind of bring this series even more to mainstream attention, and that's why we got the movie, the cartoon show.
Yeah, you're right. It needed to be on the Super NES.
Yeah, so I think they needed to make that mistake. And
one thing I think that we discovered after our Mortal Kombat episode was that the Japanese version of Mortal Kombat 1 doesn't suffer from the same input lag as every other version. It came out later. It's much, much more responsive. And I was just like, wow. So unfortunately we missed that in that episode because just hadn't tried it, but I have since tried it and can confirm Japanese version is fine. It plays much better. So they must have fixed it.
There was also a planned update to Mortal Kombat 1 called Mortal Kombat Nitro that was going to fix all this. And did not happen.
Oh, right.
It was announced, though.
Oh.
One thing that could be nice is it could be an NES Mappers episode explaining what they are, what they brought from Black Box to Lagrange Point. Yes, well, talk about Lagrange Point would be something to do anyway.
Yeah.
A Mapper episode could be interesting. I think that, though, is such a specific topic that I think that would be a good crossover with like My Life in Gaming rather than the full-on DF Retro. Because as a DF Retro, I think it would be a little bit, I don't know, maybe a little bit short.
No, that would get pretty technical, I think, to do it right, which I don't mind. It would just take a lot of research to ensure that that stuff is done.
Yeah.
Those are tough to balance, actually. Another type of episode I've been thinking about doing again is like what I did for that water episode, you know?
Yeah.
Doing like we should try to pick another thing like lens
Sky
flares
boxes.
or sky boxes or you know, or even like rain, you know, stuff like that, like just cool effects in games, and see what we can do with that. Because I bet
sunsets in video games.
Sunsets in video games. That could work too. I mean, there's so many things like that could totally work well, I think. That would be really fun to do. Dang, $100 for Genesis. Look at that. Gore. An episode on virtual gore. And
Then we could talk about Expect No Mercy.
Well, we could start up the episode with an introduction to with Al Gore in there.
Oh, yeah.
Like wrong Gore.
Well, his wife was the one that initiated the hearings.
Yes,
Gore,
exactly.
so.
So it would be a perfect thing. Yeah, there's a lot of things like that. Do I have to look at that?
For mirrors, you know, we talked about mirrors in the Direct this week. Mirror technology, and that would be in reflections in retro games would be a very interesting subject, because then you have like bloodlines on Genesis and whatnot. Like, yeah, I would like to see a reflections episode in retro games.
Yeah, reflections, mirrors, specifically.
That should be at the same time as like a tech focus, looking at the modern side of that, and then a DF Retro at the same time looking at that from a retro standpoint.
Exactly.
So it would be like that would be an amazing undertaking. I
that could be
actually
fun.
love that idea.
Yeah, there's so many techniques back then to simulate reflections.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. We have an idea here. I'll write it down for the list.
okay, man, yeah, so many good ideas coming up. Less CO2. What about N2O? That game, nitrous oxide, with the crystal method on the soundtrack.
That's right.
Oh man.
Yeah, but the next few months we do have planned out. So
That's right.
maybe I think until like November-ish, I think we're pretty much fully
Something
booked.
like that. Yeah,
And then we'll rope around. So.
Yeah, this month is starting. You know, August is going to be a crazy month for us because both Richard and Alex will be mostly
On
away.
vacation. Yeah.
So, yeah, we own the house. So Digital Foundry is going to become all retro all the time.
Yeah, I can't wait for it to be me and you in charge of a channel with 1 million people. This can only end well.
It's just going to
But
come back, and there's going to be like barely any subscribers left. What happened?
Well, we got drunk. We put up a
Something-
video.
Something happened. Sorry.
But the good news that Audie's dead.
Oh. Wait, was that the Double Dragon fighting game there? No, that awful fifth one, or was that?
Yeah, Double Dragon 5. I think it was.
Oh, and then I saw Sonic CD as well.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Man, look at all those brand new cards.
Yeah, I remember we had this here as well. Was these like
There's plastic
this?
things.
Yeah,
where you
that
put
you
the
could-
carts in there and you just flip through, right?
Yeah, flip through, and
Those
that
are
was
awesome.
so exciting. I remember seeing like because it usually would have the same game, and there was that one new game in the middle. I was like, I never seen this before, and remember I bought Flintstones on the NES that way. I was just like, "There's a Flintstones game," and that came from like looking through those plastic panels. Man, the way we've discovered games and the way they were presented in store and stuff, it's become too what's it called when you make everything the same?
Not sure.
There's probably a big smart word for it, but yeah, like now it's just on a shelf. They're all the same. It has the same dude bro on the box. Like I miss the sense of discovery we had back in the day, but
Yeah,
obviously
I
we
know what you
cannot
mean.
go back.
No, we can't.
So
Just like look at the size of the Game Gear in that kid's hand.
oh yeah, might as well buy a Nomad.
I think it was a beast at the time.
That kid is now like 50 years old. I don't know when this footage is from. It would have been like 93.
This was 93, yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So, yeah. Where are these people today? Well, that's Paul Simon, so we know where he is.
Oh, this is the part where they're talking about they're interviewing parents about Mortal Kombat violence, where they're basically like asking, "Are you sure it would be okay for your children to play such a game?" And it's like New York, so like, "Nah, I'm not gonna let my children play." I can't do the New York accents. Let's just hear 'em.
Self-regulate itself, yes.
You don't, and you think that it should just be up to the parents to watch
Exactly. I believe it's the parents' responsibility to buy and sell and let the market forces take over, which they have been doing.
it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate
I love that guy. He has so much attitude. Whoa.
Oh,
Oh, you know this lady is not going to let her
She's not
play
gonna
Mortal
like
Kombat.
this.
No.
No way. No way.
can you tell us your name, please?
Janet Alterman,
Can you spell your last name?
Alterman.
Like you said, we're doing a story on violent video games and a rating system that the government was thinking of enacting for video games. Are you concerned about your children playing violent video games?
Absolutely, I'm concerned. We do not have a video game in our house per se. The only video game that my child is allowed to have is Game Boy. And
The only
we're
video game
selective
the child
as
can
to
have is Game Boy.
Which game she's allowed to play. So absolutely. Yeah.
Why are you concerned?
I just think that they get so much violence on TV and they get violence on the news.
It is
and
interesting
they get
back then,
violence in
though,
the
how like
schools.
Nintendo
And
positioned
violence in the
themselves.
home that I don't think it's necessary
You
that,
know, to
that
be
their
so
playthings
family-friendly.
also have violence.
They really were, the gaming Disney.
Rating video games. Do you think that would have
They were,
I
yeah.
think so because I
Not anymore though, are they?
I
huh?
pay attention
They
to
haven't-
the
Don't
theater
you go there.
ratings.
I know what you're thinking.
And she can't see anything over a G
Oh, man.
rating, and so I do pay attention, and that allows me.
I hope
to
the
guide
streamer,
which
the
things
people
she
watching
can
the
see and
stream
which
are
she
probably
can't.
like, wait, now how did we get to this?
Okay,
But
sure.
I don't care. It's just how it goes sometimes.
Abby,
Well, we should wrap up soon, for
Yeah.
my stomach is rumbly and tumbly, so I'm hoping to eat a bit, but
Yes.
I think
maybe-
most people checked out because they're watching the soccer game.
Yeah, we should wrap it up. But that was a fun trip through the PlayStation stuff and some of that generation of gaming. And
And I mean, these will be on demand for people who missed it. And if you want to go back and watch these Q&As, if you haven't seen part 1 and 2, you'll find those on the Patreon. You can click the link, and it will still show you our commentary for those episodes. So if you missed those, do go back and check it out because
absolutely,
it was a lot of fun. And
Yeah.
we will absolutely be doing this for other DF Retro episodes.
exactly, for sure. There's a lot. Yeah, and I can't wait to let me think. If we estimate, so not next weekend for sure.
No.
It would probably be 3 weeks from now where we would release not next Sunday, not the Sunday after, but the Sunday after that
Yes, that's
is
when the
when
next one comes out.
the next episode comes out.
Yeah.
So it will be out then. And we'll as before, we'll probably tease what it is just before. So you'll find
Yeah,
out as well.
because we do the direct on Saturday, so perfect timing, right?
Exactly. So yeah. All right. Well, anyway, thank you for joining us for this little Sunday night sort of Q&A chill out session. And
Yeah.
we'll see you guys in the Discord. And have a good rest of the weekend, whatever's left, I guess, which will vary depending on which time zone you are in. It may even be Monday in some areas, I guess. So, all right.